Suzu and I left the arcade, occasionally stopping to be given praise or be asked a question about our gaming skills. We eventually headed out to the parking lot where a decently used jade motorcycle sat with chains around its wheels. You even have a motorcycle? Girl, you're too perfect. Suzu quickly took off the chains and took a seat on the bike, getting out 2 helmets, placing one on her own head and ushering me to sit behind her. I followed her gesture and made myself comfortable on the leather seat behind her, putting on one of the helmets, and wrapping my arms around her waist. I had ridden with her on her motorcycle before, so this was nothing new to us. Suzu revved the engine and quickly sped out of the lot, driving into the streets towards a fast food joint.
Does Paradise Parlor sound good? I'd love some Paradise Nuggets and cheese fries.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, sounds good. We went through the drive-thru and ordered meals for ourselves before heading to my home. Suzu parked in the front, watching me dismount from her bike. Our house looks very lovely in the evening, I must say.
Thanks for late lunch.
It might as well be dinner now. Suzu and I laughed. It was funny how time flew by. Want to stick around and eat together?
Huh? Oh, nah man, I gotta head back home and watch Francesca while my folks meet up with some bigwigs from the casino.
Francesca. Oh, okay. See you in school then.
Thanks though. See ya!
I waved at Suzu as she quickly headed out of the gates and back home. I smiled as I watched her go before heading back inside. Suzu stuck around in my mind for a little longer than I expected, but I couldn't help but smile. Man, that was so much different from how things usually go. We didn't get knocked out. The remainder of the night passed by, surprisingly uneventful. The boys continued to train with each other, but were kind enough to stop and make me dinner. I was glad for that. Unsurprisingly, the food was perfect, but it felt a little empty without the boys to eat with me. They most likely had already eaten, but still, I felt lonely. I couldn't let it bother me. I ate and went back to my room to study and sleep. Surprisingly, I felt good going to bed that night. I felt like I could have a peaceful sleep after the previous rough nights I had. Felt good. I drifted to sleep and woke up almost flawlessly that next morning. No grogginess, no aches. Perfectly energized and bright-eyed. Man, how long has it been since I got that much good sleep? I looked at my alarm clock. I woke up 10 minutes before my alarm. Well, hey, I must be lucky today. Karma owed me some luck. After all I had gone through in merely a handful of days, I deserved to get some good luck. Ecstatic for the day ahead, I turned off my alarms before they could ring and got dressed. However, my phone started to quickly buzz from an incoming text. Huh? Who's texting me this early?
Yo, Anderson! You're carpooling with us from now on. We're not letting you waste your money on a bus. Get ready and be at your gate at 7 stat.
I smiled. My friends were the best. I couldn't drive yet, and I didn't have a car, so it was awesome that my friends would let me carpool. I checked the time, 6:30. Perfect! I can eat some breakfast before they come. I packed my bag and carried it downstairs into the kitchen. I quickly made myself coffee and toast, not having time for anything big. Alright, because... Okay, interesting. Like, this seems different. The boys didn't make you... None of the boys made you breakfast. Got it. I let out a soft sigh in happiness as I sipped my coffee. I felt great, and I felt like nothing could stop me today. Come at me, day. I'm ready for you. I looked at the time again. Time to go. I quickly rushed to the doors, checking myself in the passing mirror. I wasn't wanting to impress anyone, but I still needed to look decent. And right on cue, Naomi drove out to the gates with Suzu waving me down. I rushed out the door and we headed to school talking about the homework in the coming day. Alright, no secret demon names to call out to when we get kidnapped, I guess, if we're still getting kidnapped. We made it into the school without a hitch. Our lockers were in the same part of the hall, so we quickly unloaded what we needed to and got our important books and necessities. First incident of the day. As I walked toward Suzu and Naomi, who were both waiting for me on the opposite side of the hall, something hooked my ankle and made me fall forward. Whoa! Ow!
Hey, are you okay?
Who did that?
The three of us looked back to see Lisette and her gaggle of girls. Lisette had a look of complete innocence, while the girls around her giggled like no tomorrow.
Why, you little...
Suzu, don't!
I felt a giant fire of anger burn in my stomach as I stared at Lisette. Today was not the only time this had happened to me. However, it was now clear who was behind these incidents. Even if she was innocent and one of her goons did it, it was now obvious that Lisette was the mastermind just from the look on her face. She was no friend, nor would she ever be. I had to do something. Get her! I'd had enough. I felt adrenaline rush through my body as I pounced off of the ground and rushed at Lisette. I was not going to be the only one with scrapes this time. I tackled Lisette to the ground, swiping and slapping her innocent face. She screamed in fright before trying to push me off and block my attacks.
Holy shit! Anderson!
It's pretty terrifying.
Stop it!
I wasn't listening anymore. I let my carnal need to get revenge take over as I began to pull at Lisette's hair to get better aim at her face with my free hand. I'd had enough of the bullying, the wounds, the insults. All of that was gonna burn in the past as I scraped my nails and hand across Lisette's face over and over. My rebellion would be marked on her pretty face for all to see. Lisette pushed me off and scrambled to her feet, both panicked and angry at the same time. Her emotion was nowhere close to the anger I was feeling.
Are you crazy? What the hell?
I stood up very slowly, glaring daggers into Lisette's soul through her eyes. I must have had some sort of monster behind me. Or maybe I looked like the monster myself. But the gaggle of girls, Lisette, and even my friends had a look of pure terror on their faces. I have had enough of you, Lisette. You obviously won't stop unless I fight back. Well, guess what? You're gonna get it. I charged at Lisette a second time, shoving her hard against the lockers. She let out a yelp of pain as she smacked the back of her head against the metal behind her before glaring and shoving me back. As I stumbled back, Lisette raised her hands, ready to fight.
Then come on, Anderson. Show me what you've got. I bet it's not much.
I felt myself snarl in anger before raising my own fists, remembering my taekwondo. I quickly snapped onto one leg and raised a leg to get a swift kick at her head, but she blocked with her arm and stepped towards me to jab at me. She had training. Not surprising. I didn't care at that moment. I bent back away from the incoming jab, reestablishing my balance as I placed both feet on the floor. Lisette threw jab upon jab at me, forcing me to block my torso and face with my arms and hands. Hit for hit, Lisette and I exchanged and defended blows at each other. It was indeed more than just a catfight. This was a vengeful duel right out of the Matrix. In my mind, all I saw was Lisette. All I wanted to do was make her stop, and if that meant beating her down, then it had to be done. We eventually gained a small crowd of people, all silent but observing the fight. My anger intensified, and my hits became harder with each second that passed between us. I couldn't let her win. I wouldn't let her win. None of Lisette's girls dared to step in, apparently afraid to after seeing our skills and our individual fighting styles. Suzu was held back by Naomi's arm, despite both of them wanting to help me. They didn't wait long for it to end, though. Suddenly, Lisette was pulled away from me, and I was pushed against the lockers by a strong force. Lisette hit the lockers as well on the opposite end of the hallway, letting out a girly grunt of pain. I looked up to see my art teacher, Miss Gordon, holding me against the lockers with a look of surprise and serious concern on her face.
Miss Anderson, what are you doing?
I looked to see Lisette being held back by Mrs. Phillips, starting to cry innocently. I knew what was going to come out of her mouth, so I tried to push Miss Gordon off to confront her. Miss Gordon, however, kept an arm wrapped around me, keeping me back. No, don't you dare start crying, Lisette. You started this.
Miss Anderson, get a hold of yourself!
What is wrong with you? What did I ever do to you? I couldn't stop the angry tears running down my face as I shouted across the hallway. Lisette and Mrs. Phillips stared in shock at my screams as Miss Gordon tightened her hold on me. I am so sick of it! Leave me alone! Eventually, I lost my energy and began to weigh down on Miss Gordon's arms, letting my sadness take over and quench my anger with tears and swelling pain. I could feel Miss Gordon hug me to her to keep me upright as Lisette sniffled and confided with Mrs. Phillips.
I didn't do anything to her. She just attacked me all of a sudden.
That's a lie, Lisette. You tripped her on purpose. You've always been a snobby prick to us.
Never! I gave my condolences about her grandfather's death. I try to keep everyone calm. Is that so wrong?
You didn't even sound sincere. We know you were only pretending to be nice to spite us.
Enough. Miss White, follow me to the dean's office.
Lisette followed, wiping her eyes in the faint innocence she knew how to play up. I remained still in Mrs. Gordon's arms, unable to bring myself to fight to get at Lisette again. I had done my damage. The gaggle of Lisette wannabes would make sure I became infamous around the school. I didn't care. I made my statement on Lisette's face and body, and I wasn't afraid to do it again. Miss Gordon, however, wasn't done with me.
Come with me, sweetie.
I nodded and followed. My friends frowned as they watched me leave, but they headed to class without me. Okay, we'll skip the lecture from Miss Gordon, even though I do love her quite a bit. Alright, surprisingly, the rest of the school day went off without another incident. I went to my classes, had lunch, and was anxious to get home. As the bell rang for school to end, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. Huh? A text? From Dad? I'll be picking you up today. Make sure you're ready to go when I get there. That's kind of a surprise. I quickly headed back to my locker and got my things before waiting for Naomi and Suzu.
Hey, are you ready to go?
Actually, my dad's picking me up.
Really? Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense.
We'll drive home together next time. Tell your dad that we've got you covered from now on.
Yeah, alright. Even while I laughed, something didn't seem right. My dad texted me to say this? Why was he going to pick me up? Had I done something wrong? I didn't know. I waved goodbye to Naomi and Suzu before heading off to the usual spot where my dad picks me up. I took the time to listen to my music while I waited. I need to go to another Rise of the Phoenix concert. Eventually, I had played the entire album with no one showing up. What the hey? Dad's never late. Especially not this late. I quickly dialed my dad's number again, but as soon as I pressed call, it disconnected and read a signal disconnection error message. What the... No signal error? How do I not have signal? I double-checked my phone and saw all 5 bars for signal. He must be in a dead zone. Before I could finish, a group of hands grabbed at my hands, feet, and covered my mouth. I screamed into the hand over my mouth, struggling to pull away from the hands grabbing at my limbs. It felt disgusting and scary, feeling their hands on me. I needed it to stop.
Hey! Don't dirty up Malix's prey.
The voice, which sent a fearful shiver down my spine, whispered into my ear.
You're coming with me, Miss Anderson.
I couldn't fathom what was happening, but before I knew it, I was blindfolded and my limbs were quickly tied up. I felt myself being carried somewhere and was shoved into something that echoed the interior of a bus or a van. The doors closed and off I was taken, unsure of where I was going and why. All I knew was that I was in trouble. I'm so excited to see what happens. All I saw was darkness. I felt numb as I was taken to a place I didn't know of. I couldn't even move my lips to scream. Sounds zipped past my ears, first of the interior of a car, then the outside, then an echoey space with whispers and cackles of people vibrating through it. However, the wrap around my eyes was eventually removed from my face, and my bonds were cut. It took a while for my eyes to adjust, but I found myself in a warehouse surrounded by devils, including Malix, who was smirking at me.
Nicely done! I'm sure those little shits will come running to find you when they realize you didn't return to your precious little mansion. They'll search everywhere for you.
Malix walked over and set the barrel of his gun against the skin between my eyes.
It'll be so funny when they find your dead body instead.
Taekwondo his butt, girl! F you, Malix! No way this was happening. No way was I going to let myself be a victim of this. Oh, this is gonna come in handy! Yes. I gotta remember. What was in that book?
What are you whimpering? Are you praying that the boys will come and save you?
I kept grumbling, trying to remember and shut my eyes. Studying for a brief second wasn't enough to keep a spell in my mind, but I had to try something. Anything. All of a sudden, the air grew still and silent. Everything went sepia tone. I opened my eyes and looked around and gasped at the sight. Everything was frozen in time, as if the clocks had stopped and everything had followed suit. What the... At first, I instantly wanted to move, but my feet were glued to the ground. I guess I couldn't change time and escape from where I was, but I was still lost. What was I supposed to do? A soft wisp of wind made me turn to a floating light purple orb. I stared as it glowed, giving off a warm feeling. For some reason, this thing made me feel happy and content despite the situation I was in. My heart felt like crying, yet I didn't know why. It couldn't have been... Grandfather? Whoa! That is unexpected. Aw man, you died and you still have to use a cane? That's really sad. As I muttered, the orb slowly grew and faded into a spirit of my grandfather from when I last saw him. I stared up at him, completely shocked that I was correct and that his form was standing in front of me.
I guess it was a good idea to bring the incubi here after all.
What? Is it really you? What do you mean? My grandfather smiled before patting my head gently. I couldn't feel it, but I knew he tried, so I closed my eyes in acknowledgement before looking at him again.
Sweetie, I'm sorry for not telling you, but I didn't know if you were ready to know.
That you handled demon magic?
Yes.
Why? What is there to gain from learning and using demon magic?
It wasn't a matter of gaining anything except knowledge. Through magic, I was able to learn more about the demon world and its wonders. I even met your incubi friends.
You met the boys?
Yes. It was I who helped them come here. But it seems it was at the cost of my life.
Oh, well that's unfortunate. What? Why? Why sacrifice yourself like that? None of this made sense. He died to bring the incubi into the human world? Why? Why? My mind was practically screaming in anger. I needed answers. With time being frozen, we had all the time in the world. Why would you die for something like that? Why leave us alone? Why leave me alone?
I wasn't intending to, my dear. But now that I'm gone, you have a chance to find yourself without anything hindering you.
What?
Your father had always been so hard on you. I'm to blame for that. He learnt of my studies before he married your mother and pushed me away, promising to never follow in my footsteps.
Oh, that's the source of the rift. Not expecting that.
As he was my son, I still loved and cared for him. I helped him in little ways, from paying bills and making sure he had food to come home with by adding money to his accounts. You don't know how hard your father worked to get to where he is now.
I stared, trying to take it all in. It was true that my dad worked really hard, but I didn't realize how rough he had it.
When you were born, I couldn't have been any happier. I tried to give you as many toys as I could, but many of them were tossed away by your father to protect you from me. I thought I would never be able to see you, but when I found you on the street, I was blessed enough to be given a chance. After I brought you back to your parents, I asked your mother to convince your father to let you visit me often, and he finally agreed.
Why does Dad hate you so much? Why put that on me?
Your father saw me as a monster. He was afraid I would hurt you. He wanted to protect you from me at all costs, even if it meant becoming a monster to you himself.
Makes sense.
You did not know my father. You did not know what he was capable of.
Right.
He truly does love and care for you, but he doesn't want you to be as curious as I was.
Curious?
I chose to learn about magic. I grew curious about it. He thought that was wrong, so when I didn't give it up, he shut me out of his life.
What a stubborn old man.
So I did the only thing I could do. I gave everything I owned to you, including my hidden books your father never knew of.
My head began to spin. There was too much information. It was all going so fast, despite time not moving a single inch.
I'm just so happy that my curiosity stayed with you.
So my grandfather met the incubi. That seems so surreal. I could hardly believe it, yet here was the spirit of my grandfather telling me. It was almost like a dream. So you introduced them to the human world?
That's right. I told them about the wonders of our world, and they all wanted to come to experience it. So I helped them come over and gave them everything they needed. They traveled everywhere, and I helped them as they learned more about humans. Then, I suddenly stopped breathing. I don't know why, but I believe it was because my time was up. After I died, the boys tried to come back. However, Mallets attacked them instantly when they crossed his path. I used the last bit of my strength to guide them to the estate so they had a place to stay to heal.
So that's why they were in the house. But they said they didn't know about the house belonging to anyone.
I never told them it belonged to anyone. I merely told them to head to the estate for shelter until they could learn to live on their own.
If the estate was meant for them, why give it to me?
I never knew your father would move you in so quickly. Even still, you managed to learn of them and learn of the demon world. You even were curious enough to study the magic.
Why not teach me when I visited?
You were too young to understand. I was hoping that you would make the choice to learn on your own when you were ready to handle it. And you did. I'm so proud of you.
What are you saying? I've barely begun reading it. I don't remember anything.
I will help you remember.
Then my grandfather gently bent down and kissed my forehead. All at once, my mind began to fill with spells and history of arcane magic, the demon world, and everything my grandfather had known. I looked up at my grandfather again, now able to remember everything and more as he smiled down at me.
Never forget. Make your own choices and do what you need to do. Don't let someone determine your life for you. If you decide to never look at magic again, I'll understand. But now at least you know it's there.
My grandfather then patted my head before turning and walking away. I tried to follow after, still unsure and lost as ever, but my feet remained stuck to the floor. Wait, please! He didn't turn back, and he didn't stop walking. Soon he vanished past the wall, leaving me alone once again. I gritted my teeth, trying not to cry. My mind was filled with both the power to defend myself and a large amount of confusion I could never hope to shake off. I could feel the air around me start to move again, so I tightened my hands into fists, trying to push away my concerns. I had to remember. I was Malix's captive. I had to escape. After I escaped, I could figure out my life. Soon the world around me returned to normal, with Malix mocking me. I closed my eyes and began to mutter a spell from my memory. Spiritus Lumine, de fortitude dinam tuam.
What the? Latin? What are you?
Discedo! All of a sudden, a wave of light burst from my body, washing over the room and pushing the devils away from me to the ground. As the light quickly faded, I shook my head, feeling a small weakness in my legs. Malix quickly hopped up and growled at me, obviously surprised, but irritated beyond belief.
Where did you learn that? I will rip that tongue right out your mouth!
Spiritus tenebrarum periculum prohibere!
Come here!
Malix charged at me, dropping the gun that would never hurt me to the floor and reaching for my face. However, I quickly crouched down and covered my head with my arms while a dark magic circle appeared under my feet. Above me, a dark shield appeared, blocking Malix from touching me.
How? You're just a human!
This is so awesome. A human who knows how to fight back. I pushed against the shield, forcing Malix back before standing. I wasn't some damsel in distress. I could fight for myself. I shook out the sudden appearance of numbness in my hands as I glared at Malix, challenging him once again to come at me.
Malix!
No! Stay out of it! I'll kill this bitch with my own two hands, one way or another!
As commanded, Eris stood away from us along with the other devils. The group watching us was lost in intrigue as I stood up against their leader.
Oh, you must think you're some tough shit since you know some demon magic, huh? Well, guess what, princess? Demon magic consumes energy. I could play this all day, and when you finally lose all your energy, your ass is grass.
Your ass is grass? That's the best you could come up with. I glared, knowing that what he said was true. I couldn't hold out forever, but I definitely had the energy to last a while until someone found me, or until I could overpower Malix somehow. Malix charged at me once again, causing me to run backwards to keep some sort of distance. I could feel energy wanting to shoot out of my hands, so I pointed my palms at Malix. Light purple spikes suddenly began shooting from my hands, forcing Malix to skid back. I had terrible aim, only able to scratch the edges of his body with one or two actually stabbing into his shoulder and leg. Malix growled, pulling them out and throwing them to the ground.
Quit playing around, Malix!
I lowered my hands, feeling the numbness run up through my veins to consume both of my arms. I began to pant, desperate for some relief before continuing. Malix smirked at the sight. Oh, for the love of God, please someone find me, I prayed. I hoped that I wouldn't have to keep fighting. I was becoming desperate. What made everyone in that warehouse drop our fighting faces was the screeching of police sirens coming closer to our location. Malix smirked even wider.
It's time to have fun, boys! Make sure you kill them all!
And then that's when Eris had had enough. The devils all seemed to get excited and started to walk past us to meet with the cops, but a loud finger snap stopped them and made them turn around. Malix and I looked to see Eris with her hand in the air post-snap.
Eris? What are you doing?
Enough, Malix! We've wasted enough time in this stupid town.
I'm getting out of here and I'm taking the rest with me.
What is your deal, Eris? I'd love to know. I didn't know whether to laugh or not. I bit my tongue as Malix got angry again.
Like hell you are! Boys, do as I say, or else!
None of the boys moved. Eris snapped her fingers again, causing the boys to rush back past her and out another way from the warehouse.
Malix, it's over. You can't even beat a human girl. You're losing your powers. Lower devils only follow higher-ups that actually have power.
Shut your mouth!
Malix summoned his gun to his hand and shot multiple times at Eris, who somehow managed to teleport away from the shooting line and reappear by us. She shook her head, letting out a sigh before grabbing Malix by the neck and pulling him off of me. Malix started to choke as Eris stared coldly at him.
All this for a bunch of pretty boys. You must be stupid and desperate.
Eris looked to me, making me tense up.
Human, I suggest heading home to your pretty boys. You don't want to get involved in a supernatural investigation. It's a pain in the ass.
I mean, first of all, thank you, but why are you just letting me go? She then turned back to Malix, glaring daggers into him as he glared back at her.
You really think women are weak? Let me fix that, sweetie.
And with that, Eris vanished into the shadows, taking Malix with her. As I was left alone, the police sirens stopped. I looked over to the open passage to see the incubi with a large police siren megaphone. Staring at me in surprise. Really? One of you would come and save me and rip that poor boy to shreds. All 5 of you had to come with like a police siren. That's great.
Where is he? I swear I'm gonna...
He's gone. Eris took him and left. They won't be coming back. It was all so surreal. I was helped by a devil, but I quickly shook off the feeling. I was alive, and that was all that mattered. I fought to stay alive, and there I was. The boys tried to question me, but James cleared his throat, catching the attention of his brothers and me.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
Altogether, we began to walk out of the warehouse back home. There was no way in hell anyone was going to find out about this. It was over. I'm gonna have to do that one again without learning magic and see how that goes. That was what a crazy fight scene. Malix was gone and the boys were finally safe. A wave of relief ran through my body at the thought of never having to deal with that group again. At the same time, a ping of realization hit the back of my mind. The boys were only going to stay until after Malix was defeated. That was our deal. Whoops. As we approached home, I could feel something heavy weigh down my heart. It was late, but the boys led me inside and turned on the lights in the lobby.
Finally, we can relax.
It will be good to have some rest without devils breathing down our necks.
I'm just tired. Can I hit the hay early?
I think some sleep would be good for all of us.
I looked at Damien, knowing he could read my mind, and frowned. I didn't want him to know about my thoughts on the situation. Yeah, bed sounds good. I wanted to just end tonight. Too much had happened, and I felt dizzy just trying to figure it out. However, Damien spoke up, stopping all of us from moving.
Should we be gone in the morning?
That's the question, isn't it? Am I still gonna have a choice? You know what? I'm just gonna save. I mean, presumably I can just let them go. No. The air became still with tension. The realization of the situation hit the boys like a wave, forcing them to turn to me in curiosity. They had remembered their deal, and were now awaiting me to decide their fate. However, I knew my answer. Oh, okay, so I don't have the choice this time. I couldn't keep them here. I knew I couldn't. They were demons, and I was a human. I needed to deal with my own life beyond anything else. If the boys stayed, my life would only become more complicated. I think that would be best. James nodded in agreement, keeping a professional tone in his voice as he replied to me.
Then we will be gone before you wake, miss. Thank you for letting us stay here as long as we did.
This is so weird. I could feel the upset emotions of the incubi reverberate in the room, but I couldn't change my mind. I had too much going on in my life to let them stay, no matter how much I wanted them to.
It was a pleasure to have served you, beautiful lady.
This is so sad. Ugh, having done all their writs and then just saying goodbye to them one by one. It was hard, watching each boy turn away from me for the last time. I stood there, waiting for them all to leave the lobby.
I guess this is goodbye. Yeah. Have a good one.
I stuck to my guns. I knew I was making the right choice.
Thank you for having us, miss. Maybe we'll see each other again.
Matthew. Maybe. Maybe not.
Goodbye.
Damien. As Damien left my sight, I finally let in air that I was denying into my body and sighed. My life would return to normal. Well, as normal as it could be. However, I was smarter and wiser than before. I knew of things beyond humanity now. I had come to learn about the boys and about the existence of the supernatural. I wasn't blind to what was beyond human life. Learning of this made me more open-minded. I nodded to myself before heading into my room, closing the door and mentally allowing the reality of the situation to sink in. Tomorrow I had school. No devils to kidnap me, no incubi to wake up with. And is Diana even gonna bother showing up? I went to bed that night, accepting and not regretting anything.